Alright, so I just finished reading chapter 64. I actually had no idea this was coming out today. Nice pleasant surprise, but a lot of our assumptions about Boruto's new form and the karma seal and the pills is slowly getting confirmed by this chapter, and I gotta say that a lot of the stuff in this chapter was kind of predictable, but that's to be expected when we're building up like this. But I do like a lot of the stuff that was shown this chapter, especially Boruto's new karma seal form. I particularly like how Boruto now seems like he's in control of that Momoshiki like state, and that's kind of what I suspected, but I wasn't like exactly sure. But him being in control of that Momoshiki like state is actually putting him like leagues ahead. Like in terms of power, Boruto is keeping up with somebody who is an inner car member by himself. That in itself is pretty crazy. You know, this is Code he's fighting at the same time. So in this new sort of karma seal form, whatever you want to call it, Boruto's handling Code, and he's not like he's getting thrashed around, right? He's actually like putting up a good fight for a majority of it. And, you know, some could say the argument that, hey, Code doesn't want to like injure his sacrifice, but you gotta admit that Boruto is actually putting in some work. And one of the cool things I really like about this form is that Boruto gets to use the Byakugan just freely. I don't think he actually used it anytime in this chapter, because I feel like the Byakugan doesn't really get used that much in the manga, but he gets to use the Byakugan. It's kind of just there, it's just, you know, to be there. And that's just one of the pluses of having this new form. So, you know, starting off with this chapter, they kind of start scrapping a little bit. Boruto charges full ahead, and I kind of like this scene to where Code is using the claw marks on Boruto's body, and it looks kind of weird, like how the hands are coming out of Boruto's chest and everything like that. They later on explain that these claw marks are actually mixed in with some iron from Code's body, so it has some elements of chakra into it, but because it's kind of mixed in with some iron, the karma can't actually absorb it, which I think is actually very interesting. I wonder if Code did that on purpose, or Amato did that on purpose when they were designing Code, so that Code wouldn't have to worry about fighting other karma users. Code uses these claw marks plenty of times throughout the fight. My original impression of the claw marks was that they were kind of OP, but the way that these claw marks sort of work in this fight particularly, I don't think that Naruto's gonna have much of an issue when it comes to handling Code's claw marks. You know, for someone like Boruto who's using shadow clones, I think that the shadow clones are actually a pretty decent countermeasure to the claw marks, because Boruto didn't really have that much trouble when it came to handling Code when he was using the claw marks. And I think that Naruto, someone who's way better at using shadow clones and whatnot, would have a slightly easier time fighting him. So it is very interesting to see how these claw marks actually function in battle, and that, hey, we might have been, you know, overestimating just how strong these claw marks are. Now they're still strong, right? But I just feel like maybe I was overrating them in the past, and maybe these aren't as strong as you think they are. So Ada, I'm gonna call Ada the snitch. Ada the snitch tells Code about these pills, and she's like, maybe these meds are affecting Momoshiki's power, and this is why his mind isn't being taken over. So Ada knows about these pills. If you remember, Ada knows everything. She can see everything. She basically has like a camera in every single room, so whatever you do, Ada will find out. So Ada's like, hey, don't take this guy easy, you know, take this seriously, because this could actually be a real threat if he's able to harness Momoshiki's power. And that just kind of sort of backs up the theory that these pills are suppressing Momoshiki's personality and sort of prevent Momoshiki from coming out in the future if they're working correctly. Now, towards the end of this review, I want to talk about the pills sort of at the end of the chapter and how those pills have like a double-edged sword. But first we got to talk about Naruto, and Naruto finally making a reappearance in the manga, getting ready to fight. So they're searching for Boruto, and they're looking for Boruto's chakra. Dude that was watching them like 3 chapters ago, the guy that's supposed to be like watching the house, I totally forgot about that guy, but he's done a horrible job. But you know, nonetheless, pretty much they're looking for Boruto, and Shikamaru surprisingly is here with them, and Shikamaru's like, yo, I'm not here to stop you, I'm here to join you. And one of the things I found really interesting about this chapter in particular is Shikamaru was on the cover art. Now that gives me chills, and I'm very scared to see what's going to happen to Shikamaru. Shikamaru was apparently going to be joining Naruto in this fight, and I'm just terrified of what's going to happen, because Shikamaru having his own cover art where he was shown for what, 3 panels? Shikamaru is probably gonna die. I'm sorry to say it, but Shikamaru is probably going to die very soon. It just seems like one of those things is kind of weird to give him his own panel. It was very out of place. He kind of only showed up for a couple minutes, so I think that Shikamaru's final moments are coming up. So either his final moments are coming up, or we're gonna get some very big reveal or something along those lines. So man, I just don't have any high hopes for Shikamaru for what's about to happen next. Naruto's about to leave the house and Hinata stops him. And speaking of Hinata, I forgot Hinata even exists in the manga. I totally forgot she was here. But yeah, Hinata's, you know, she's here, doesn't show up too often, and she was like, hey, I can come along. But the way they sort of did this scene was like a final goodbye. It's like, hey, you know, something happens to me, then who's gonna take care of you? So sort of like a final goodbye from Naruto and, you know, Shikamaru and them. And, you know, Naruto's just like, hey, look who I am. You know, I'm the 7th Hokage. I'm Naruto Uzumaki in the flesh. There's no reason to be worried about if I'm gonna come back alive or not. So he kind of just reassures him that I'm not gonna die to some random dude, and, you know, I got this. You know, Naruto has to be careful. He doesn't have Kirima anymore. And Shikamaru even brings this up. He's like, hey, you know, how long will that sage mode last you? You know, now. And Naruto's like, hey, you know, he has more wisdom now, and that he'll be able to have it last longer. And Naruto actually set up like these shadow clones, that way he could gather sage energy. So it's sort of reminiscent of Naruto versus Pain, right? Naruto versus Pain, if you don't notice, I'll just talk about it real quick, but Naruto versus Pain, he set up shadow clones that would gather energy, and whenever he needed to use sage mode again, he would just grab one of the clones. So right now Naruto's in sage mode by himself, but if he needs to gather more energy, he'll get one of the shadow clones to come to him and he'll get more sage energy. So Naruto bringing back an OG technique from Naruto Shippuden. I love to see that. You know, he's utilizing his best resources. This is literally the strongest ninja in the world, so there's no reason to count this man out. He still has plenty of techniques, plenty of tricks up his sleeve, and just based on, you know, him using his sage mode, seems like he's, you know, ready for this fight. People are probably wondering, why isn't he using his stage 6 pass mode? Possibly he might use that later on in the fight. I still think that he has a stage 6 pass mode after losing Kirima. I made a video about it, but pretty much in one of the Shinden novels, it was stated that because he has a little bit of chakra of all the tailed beast, he has some stage 6 pass energy, but I wonder if because him losing Kirima could potentially affect that. So I guess we'll kind of figure that out later on if he ends up using it or not, but for right now he's just in pure sage mode. You know, moving on, Code actually tries to take Kawaki with him, and Kawaki resists, and Code's like, yo, I thought you wanted to come with me, but Kawaki's like, hey, everything I do is to protect the 7th Hokage, and if beating you down means that I can protect the 7th, then I'm all for it. So Kawaki and Boruto start to launch their assault against Code, and there is a scene, man, to where Boruto once again tricks Code, and he almost gets a vanishing Rasengan right on Code. Now, if you know anything about Boruto and his vanishing Rasengan, this is like MJ and Scottie Pippen. Like, Boruto and his vanishing Rasengan, they just go so well together, and man, there's so many enemies in this show that almost get hit by it. It's actually crazy how good this technique is. Like, first looking at this technique, I didn't think it was that good, but imagine Boruto being able to like compress a Rasengan and make it vanish. This is basically like a sniper bullet almost, and it just catches so many people off guard. It caught Boro off guard in the anime when Team 7 was fighting him, and it's almost caught Code off guard here. But Code has to be careful, man, because things like that this Boruto has up his sleeve, it just makes Boruto an even more dangerous threat. Towards the end of the chapter, this is where we get the revelation that Amato put crack in Boruto's pills, and I'm joking, but Boruto starts falling over and grabbing his chest. Now I feel like Boruto grabbing his chest means that these pills or this energy or whatever the case may be is having very bad effects on his body. So we'll talk about the first one, right? The pills are either something's going wrong with them, they're not tested correctly, or there's some really bad side effect that Boruto doesn't really know about yet. Now, if you remember, when Amato gave him these pills, he said, hey, you might be able to stop the karma progression, but there might be a little bit more bad side effects. So, you know, whatever crack cocaine Amato put in those pills is now affecting Boruto. But there could also be the possibility that, hey, you're able to control this Momoshiki form, but your body is not able to handle this form for too long, and you don't exactly know how to control it. And that was one of my theories. I was like, okay, he has this new form, right? But you're telling me that Boruto's gonna be able to fully master this form in just this one fight? There has to be some sort of drawback to it, because this form in itself is crazy strong. So that could also be one of the other situations to where Boruto is not prepped to handle this form. But yeah, man, you can't trust Amano on these pills. We just saw Boruto laying down, and it could be lights out for Boruto if Naruto doesn't get there in time. But this next chapter seems like it may be setting up Naruto and Shikamaru versus Code. And where the hell is Sasuke at? Because I could have sworn Sasuke was like outside the Leaf Village. How does he not know what's going on? Maybe he's just not looking for their chakra signatures or whatever, but I think Sasuke might show up too next chapter. Yo, think about this. Naruto, Shikamaru, and Sasuke in a 3-man team versus Code. Code might actually die before the time skip if Code does not get out of there as soon as possible. You're facing a Naruto with Sage Mode, Shikamaru, a master strategist, and Sasuke. It's lights out. It's Rip Bozo. But hey, that's all I got for you guys. That's a pretty good chapter. Probably gives like a good 8 or 9 out of 10. Really did enjoy it. Let me know what your thoughts about the chapter. Anyways, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.